All right, we're live. We're doing our weekly solving white people's problems. This is my one way of explaining what we do in this live stream. I am brown, but I'm a Brit and I love white people, love Brits. And I think it's sad what's happening in terms of social problems. I've got my old friend Jay, a Brit, a Christian. Which decade are you in, roughly, Jay? 50s, 60s? Which one?
I was born late 60s.
Oh, I have to calculate it now. Okay, fine. Okay, people, you can work it out for yourself. Anyway, so our format is I'm going to play this Jordan Peterson video, super deep stuff. In short, he's saying, tell the truth and life will work out better for you. Let's see what he's got to say. I'm going to play the whole thing through once and then break it down because it's super deep stuff. We'll both, me and Jay, react. I'm a Muslim. I should have said that as well. I give my Muslim perspective. Jay will give his Christian, Brit perspective, whatever. Let's go.
You can craft your words to get what you want. And people do that all the time. They craft their words so they can avoid taking responsibility for things they should take responsibility for, or they can craft their words to gain an advantage that they really don't deserve. That's what you do when you manipulate. And the problem with that, you might say, well, why not do that if I can get what I want? And the answer to that is, you aren't necessarily the best judge of what you need. And it's easy to be deluded in what you want. And that's the sort of delusions that people chase if they chase power. If you decide instead that you're going to just say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. And you might think, well, I don't want to let go of the consequences because I want to control what's going on. But what you miss then is adventure, because if you don't control what's going on, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And maybe that's exciting. And actually, there's no doubt about it. And then you have the additional advantage if you're attempting to say what you believe to be true and attempting to act in the manner that you think is most appropriate. That's genuinely you, and you have the force of reality behind you. Obviously, that's what you have if you're trying to say live in the truth, is you have the force of reality behind you. That seems like a good deal. Then you have the reality and the adventure. You can craft your words to get what you want.
I'm going to try to give us really short understanding of what happened there. I'm not covering all the many ideas, but the main idea for me that I focused on the thumbnail was, like, if you tell the truth, you've got a force of reality behind you. That's a funky way of saying, like, you're not. I think it's a funky way of saying you're not in denial. Like, you're living in reality. So, like, if you've got a problem, don't pretend the problem doesn't exist. If you've got a problem, don't pretend the problem doesn't exist. Deal with the problem. Sometimes I don't think people realize how real their problems are. They're like it's pretending there's not a wall, that a wall is not there, and keep walking into it. So that's my immediate short takeaway, but there's so many other cool things he said about adventure and stuff. Jay, your short, like 1 minute, 2 minute version or immediate reaction.
Yeah, it's brilliant what he's saying. It took a couple of listens, and I've listened to it a few times after that to understand what he's saying. And I think what he's saying is that most people, if not all of us, will live in such a way where we subtly manipulate and try to shape things, obviously to suit ourselves, as opposed to living in truth. Now, if a person is to live in truth, they lose immediately the idea that they can control the outcome, because you don't know what's going to happen, because life, the heavens, whatever, will determine the reality, not you. So I think, and it's also difficult as well, but that's what you have to drop is the delusion. And also as well, what he doesn't say is it is a delusion that you can control the outcome. That's the other thing.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you look at careers, friendships, relationships, fitness goals, quite often they either fail on the way up, or you get there, and as JP says, you don't want it when you get there. So he's saying, which is a brilliant line, is why not be living in absolute truth and reality, and have the full force of reality behind you. It's very, very powerful. I mean, basically, it's the same as what Jesus said, and also that will stop depression. I think
is what Jesus said, because that's really interesting. I like
the truth will set you free.
I love that. That is absolutely yeah. I know that
free,
one.
Free of what? So free of mental illness, free of depression. No, I'm not getting what I want. I don't think I'm going to get what I want. So fear, if you're following like the right concepts and principles, then after a while you'll get evidence that it works, and then you build up faith. So faith.
I mean, yeah, that's a really hard one to swallow, though. The truth will set you free. Most people don't speak the truth because they're scared. They don't think it will set you free. So we're going to have to try to do some convincing of that. Prophet Muhammad said something, I suppose, very interesting, and on the same sort of angle about somebody came to him with many, sins and stuff. Like, you drink alcohol, and Muslims are not supposed to drink alcohol, and you do lots of bad things. And he said to Prophet Muhammad, tell me one thing that I should do to sort, and I'll do that. And he said, just tell the truth. And so he used to rob people, and he said, or steal from people. And he said, I can't steal because somebody asked me, I have to tell the truth. So the truth is a really powerful cleanser, I guess.
Yeah.
But convincing people that it'll free them and it's not scary, I think John Peterson does make an interesting attempt to tell people that it'll be better. I think I like your thing that you said, that you can't get away from the truth. And I think there's something from life experience that's so true. Like, you can lie to yourself loads of times, but it catches up with you. Like, pretending reality isn't the way it actually is again and again and again. You can't do that because reality is reality. You don't get to choose reality.
Well, I mean, like Jesus was very concerned with the mental condition, even though he didn't use the word mental condition.
Yeah, I think mental condition, spiritual condition are the same in my opinion.
They are. And what he's saying, and what Peterson's saying, that it's not about how it looks or how people see you. It's about your mental state. So if I tell you that my name's Bob, then I'm going to be constantly aware that you think you're talking to Bob. So I've got to remember that and pretend. So I'm going to be on edge, nervy. In the same way, if I tell you that I'm a 6'6" muscle-bound model, which I assure you I'm not, then so I'm creating problems and a false reality, really. And so
I love that, because now you've explained why the truth will free you, because telling lies is such a burden. You have to remember all your lies, but the truth, you don't have to remember it. It's just reality. That's one way of explaining it.
And also a thing which is quite interesting is, if I tell you that I'm called Bob, and I tell you all about this Bob character, then there's three people in our friendship. There's me, there's you, and there's Bob. So I'm cheating you of a friendship with me. I'm lying to you. So if I'm lying to you, there can be no chance of you kind of genuinely bonding with me.
Yeah, I love the metaphor, because obviously people are lying about who they are. They don't call themselves Bob, but they say other things about themselves that are true.
Wealth, and I'm this, and I've done this, and I know him, and and things like that, and in another way, it's the same as when people, know somebody who's famous. It's almost like stealing their identity, and it's like it's not true. When people say, "Oh, I spoke to David Beckham last week," like it's almost like saying, like, I am a bit of me is David Beckham. Talk to me like I'm, like you.
I see.
And the truth, and what JP's saying is that, like, you have to be you beyond everything and live in that fucking
truly
reality.
you mentioned something like that.
Yeah.
Let's respond to Claire of the Office of Secular Quranism. Let's have an example of a delusion afflicting Westerners. So I was thinking the number one affliction is arguing for no good reason, just trying to be right. There seems to be, particularly like when I come to Africa, they have many weaknesses. They don't have proper systems. They don't think long term, blah blah blah. But the good thing is that, like, if they hear your argument, they don't argue for no good reason. Like, I just realize it's become like a norm in the West, in London and stuff. Like, the person is just talking rubbish that you're debating with, and they're just getting fired up for no reason, and it's just an ego thing. It's like, just agree if you understand, and let's move on to. You don't have to be right. I don't have to be right. I could be wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong. But so I think that's the thing that I had in mind when I was watching this video. It's like people just argue too much, and they think when Jordan Peterson about crafting your words, like, we're always telling our lies to other people to convince people that we're right. Like, don't craft your words like that. Just maybe craft your words in a productive way, but don't craft your words to lie. So that was actually what I had in mind. I think Westerners are not very truthful people. They have too much of an ego and try to be right all the time, and then the rest goes wrong after that. That they're living in denial, in a false reality of their own making constantly.
Well, we live in a society which isn't doing well, and so a lot of people do try to claim, like, it's not me, and what I project is right. You should live like me and do what I do.
Yeah.
So what was it? What was it? Oh, it's on the screen. So
Yeah.
So there's a lot of delusion afflicting Westerners that mass immigration is a good thing, which is quite odd coming from Claire, who's Malaysian. What else?
No, tell me specifically what you mean by that. I might agree with you.
More people now realize that immigration is not working. It doesn't even work for GDP, and the whole selling point of.
Sure, I agree with you immediately, and I'm I'm a second generation immigrant, you could call it.
Yeah,
I agree.
But more people are agreeing with that, but a lot don't. A lot. I mean, look, I could talk for hours on this. I'll quickly run through them. The drugs should be legalized. Drugs are good. Alcohol's okay. Prostitution.
I mean, that's not easy. That's not. It's okay. Right, these are all like massive arguments. Like,
well. No, they're not.
Drugs should be legalized.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
We live in a society which suffers from a delusion that we can have alcohol, drug addiction, all stuff like that, and everything will be well.
Okay.
Won't.
So no, it won't. Yeah. So okay.
Well, it isn't. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. I agree.
Mass obesity, progressive liberalism, control and politics. That is a delusion that it works. It doesn't.
You're right. It didn't even register to me like that was the delusion. It is a delusion because, like, especially alcohol is the accepted drug. It's like, oh, it's just for fun. We're just going to the pub to take some drugs, basically. So that's a really interesting one. Yeah.
Football, the game football.
Yeah.
I was reading a report today of a match on Sky Sports, and it said so-and-so player has scored a goal. We tipped him as an 11-8 favourite to score first. So even in football commentary, they telling you that if you gambled on this, you'd have won. And how is that going to work out in the long run?
So the other delusion is that betting or gambling, I should say, is fine pastime. Do you know what I mean? But it's not. It's addictive.
Well, the delusion is society can work out well if we have gambling, alcohol, and all kinds of other like degenerate practices.
Okay, let me ask you two quick questions as a Christian. Is alcohol against Christianity, yes or no?
I don't know.
Okay,
don't
is
think so.
Gambling against Christianity, yes or no?
Well, it's this
that you know of.
I don't know. I don't think it's mentioned. I don't know. But gambling is dishonest in a way, in that you're earning money.
But if you ask me as a Muslim, you probably even know, even though you're not a Muslim, do you think alcohol is against Islam or the behavior in Islam?
I've heard various arguments. I mean, I've seen Muslims drunk. I don't know.
But but like general understanding of Islam, not like Muslims doing anything they want. They're not. That's not how you define the religion. But normally, have you ever heard that people say in Islam drinking alcohol, other than for medical reasons, is forbidden, right?
I used to hear it, but there's so many Muslim countries now that serve alcohol, so the argument's kind of mute.
Yeah, but that's because there's people who are not Muslim there or something. Like in Jordan, they have these nasty den-like shops, where they sell alcohol. But there's because it's Christians in the country, and there's foreigners, and of course there can be. So in short, if you ask me, this is common knowledge for Muslims at least, and I think it's quite common for non-Muslims as well to know even about this much about Islam. So alcohol forbidden. Did you know gambling is forbidden in Islam?
But Khalid, this is beyond religion.
My quick point, and people might be wondering where I'm going with this, because you just sound like a Muslim. That's what I was going to say. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you've turned it into a promoting Muslim argument again. But because
it's the best. It's really good for people. That's all. You can promote Christianity, and I agree with you.
I don't need to.
Why don't you need to? Don't you think Christianity is good for people? I promote Christianity to Christians.
I don't need or want to promote it. But,
no, it's not like I need it either. I'm trying to help people.
It doesn't matter whether your country is Christian or Muslim or whatever the hell, or Russia or whatever. There's alcohol. Is it useful in society? That's my point.
I agree. I agree. I agree that in Jordan, for example, because Muslims consider it really bad for everybody, we shouldn't even sell it at all. But in the name of sort of secularism and freedom, because politics as well and all this kind of stuff, they sell it a bit. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it's great. If I was the king of Jordan, I would like, no. But I'm not the king of Jordan, right? And Muslim countries aren't strictly all Muslim. Do you know what I mean? Like the Queen of Jordan doesn't wear a headscarf, blah, 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 because it's all an attempt to make people feel, more comfortable, like tourism and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, something like that. Yeah. We have a lot of tourism.
To bring it back to your question and the stream, so a lot of, let us have an example of a delusion afflicting Westerners. So what Jordan Peterson is saying, that if you live in a dishonest means or dishonest way or deluded, then you will not suffer. You'll suffer fairly badly. And what he's saying is you have to be brutally honest. So, like, we have a government and we have people in power who are, look, they either not being brutally honest or they are fucking insane. And you know, they might
A bit of both.
believe that human rights regarding, say, alcohol and gambling are valid. So they're telling the truth the same way as what a person with a mental illness has when he says, I'm a cabbage. If he believes he's a cabbage, then he is a cabbage. So if these people are saying, oh, it's wonderful to have, like, you know, the transgender plus brigade having a lot of input in a lot of things, they think it's good, then that may be their reality, you know. But it's
how do you answer this? How do you answer the people? Like, there are some people who say, you know, they might not accept the transgender argument, but like, just let people be. Especially women kind of say this kind of stuff. It's like, oh,
well, that's what,
don't be. Do you know what I mean? So what do you say to those people?
That's what Jordan Peterson got into trouble with his job, because pronouns and stuff, and everybody was saying, just go along with it, just let them, let that. And he said, no, I'm not going to let it affect my mind. I'm not going to call them like.
No, actually, I think my point was that we're trying to talk about people are scared of telling the truth because of its consequences, right?
Yeah, he wasn't.
They are real.
No, he stood up and like demonstrated this truth, and he ended up losing his career. He made it, but the thing is, he's probably made £50 million from losing his career.
Yeah, he's done really well, and I don't think it was conniving. I think it was sticking to the truth, and people value that. And I think Jordan Peterson's a Zionist and anti-Muslim. He clearly is, and all that. But I still value the things he says, right? And some of the
no, he's not. He's not anti-Muslim. He's anti-Muslims penetrating the society in the West of their values.
But he said stuff like about Prophet Muhammad is a warlord, and then he says, I don't know. And when he's confronted about the fact, you're like, I just didn't know, and I'm not sure. And like, I think he's a Zionist. He's on a Zionist channel and stuff like that. But that's my opinion. But anyway, but in response, I did like his answer. He said, aren't you scared of the consequences? And he said, I'm more scared of not telling the truth. Something like that.
Wow.
There's something powerful about it, and I feel that as well.
Yeah.
The more you go through life, the more you realize that the more you veer from the truth a little bit, the more just things go wrong. My life used to be, I used to go through life thinking like, why am I bumping against, why am I having so many problems? And then I realized when I look into my life, it's like, this was and I thought I was being really good. I'm always being like, you know, volunteering and stuff like that. But then I would do one crooked thing here, one crooked thing there, and they would have consequences. So as I've got older, I'm 40 odd years old now. And I feel way more at ease in my life, even though I'm doing loads more risky things, just because I'm sticking to the truth and being more real and honest with myself at every tiny thing in my life, as much as I can, listening to my feelings about if I'm doing something wrong, etc. So that's a really hard one to explain, isn't it? Like it's a hard, for me, it's a hard one to explain more than that. You go away from the truth a little bit. It's another Jordan Peterson thing. He said, you do not get away with anything. And like, wow, how do you explain that? But for my life, this is totally true. And anybody that I talk to at a personal level who's got problems, anything they do wrong catches up with them. It's weird. Karma, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I can have a shot at trying to explain what he's saying, in that, like, he was once in the dark and probably lived like the rest of us, not telling the truth, and you catch hell mentally, spiritually for doing all of that. And now that he's broke through and he's free and he speaks the truth, he's more frightened of going backwards, back into that cupboard, back into the dark.
Who's in a cupboard? Sorry.
Jordan Peterson, meaning he he once lived like the rest of people by not saying exactly what you think, not saying exactly what you feel, what you want, and catching the hell that goes with it. Now, he broke through that, and he speaks his mind, and he's free. So he's more frightened of going backwards into that dark space, which I call the cupboard, of where he was previously. So someone who only an enlightened man. Let me give you an example. Say you've got an atheist man who suddenly became a Muslim, and he realized that from becoming a Muslim, his life's problems were sorted. He's more frightened about going backwards into that atheistic world than anything. So what JP is saying, that's what the fear of not telling the truth is worse than anything that the truth can deliver.
Yeah.
So there's two choices. Yeah. Two choices. You tell the truth or you don't. If you don't tell the truth, you might not get told off. You know, you might get like, so if he's driving at 31 miles an hour in his car in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and the policeman says, "How fast were you going?" He's saying you have to say 31. And if you say 29, then that's when it opens the floodgates of you're lying, you're being dishonest, and you're frightened of the consequences. So you manipulate. So you cannot live in spiritual health. You cannot lie on your bed at night and feel all well. Then, "Oh, thank you, God, for giving me this," because you've lied. And that's what he's saying. You have to live in the truth, and you lose the deluded ability that you can control the outcome.
Yeah. So let's work through the loads of intensely complicated things he's been saying right from the beginning, one thing at a time now.
You can craft your words to get what you want. You know, and people do that all the time. They craft their words so they can avoid taking responsibility for things.
Wow. That's deep in itself. We craft our word essentially to lie first. But why do we lie? To avoid responsibility? That's a really interesting one. I mean, I think taking responsibility for everything that happens to you, as much as, like, you don't control the world, so you don't take responsibility for earthquakes and stuff, but you take responsibility for your responses and things as much as you can. I do like taking responsibility, and I do think it's true from my experience. The people who suffer are the ones who lie, just talk rubbish, as best as I can say, about, why they're not doing a thing. And it's usually to not take responsibility. That's my experience. So I totally agree with Jordan Peterson. And also, I think it's a hard skill to constantly question not other people but yourself. Like, you know what? I'm probably messing up. Like, let me ask you a question. Do you ever ask a close friend, girlfriend, or whatever if you're messing up on something?
Yeah,
like
a
how
lot.
am I going wrong? That's great. That's great. Because we like to be blind to our own problems. Go on, carry on.
I have one person who's known me since I was 19, and I've got one or two other people who I'll mention things to, and I've got one friend up here where I go to him. I had a real problem a few months ago, and I had to go to him and run it through. He's very pragmatic, and you need a good team around you.
I mean, that's really good if you've got one person like that you can say, you ask them, what am I doing wrong? Just what am I doing wrong, sort of thing. I think the default is to hide and cover up your problems and And let me ask you another question. Sometimes I feel like when people are covering up their problems, they are so transparent, but they don't realize how transparent they are. Is that just me? It's like
No, it's it's valid. However, like there's a time and a place to reveal problems, and what I've learned recently is, well, the last few years, it's an absolute waste of time explaining problems to people who just are not on your wavelength.
yeah.
So you have to choose wisely. That the person will understand the situation and also be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I suppose have your best interests at heart, but not to the point where they'll say, "Oh, you're amazing, you're this, you're that." I don't mean like sycophantic.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, that's really important both ways. Not like going to be negative, not overly positive, just to suck up to you. Yes, and so it's hard to find that kind of person that you can open up to as well at the same time. So you're pretty lucky you got lots of friends.
Can I just say as well that you know the word vulnerable. Vulnerable. It's I think it's some sort of Russian word for wounded.
Really? I thought it was Latin or something.
Latin, yeah, Latin rather. Yeah. But it's able to be wounded. Vulnerable.
Really?
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a great Brené Brown talk about it. She breaks down all these words. She's a psychologist. You know Brené Brown?
Yeah, I think so.
Anyway, she talks about vulnerability a lot. She's quite famous.
Right. So to be vulnerable means you're going to be wounded. So by telling the truth, right. So getting back to the stream. So by telling the truth, you're really making yourself vulnerable. Where it's a lot easier to pretend. And what JP is saying is, like, it doesn't matter how you feel, you'll feel a lot worse. Nothing can give you, nothing that the truth can give you is better than lying. So in all instances, you have to be straight and direct. But you have to be able to run the risk of being vulnerable.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Who wants to be vulnerable? So like we go, oh, everything is.
But what does it mean
right?
to be? I know you broke down the idea of what it means to be vulnerable, but you're only vulnerable if you think other people's opinions are consequential. And there's a great thing in the Quran about being either a slave to one master, that is God, or being a slave to many, which is everybody's opinions, this person's opinion. They all pull you in different directions. So if you've only got one God, then you're not vulnerable automatically, or become less vulnerable. You can speak truth, and there are less consequences.
You know, you said 5 minutes ago we don't rule the world. What Jesus spoke about was that we actually do rule our own world. And man is the ruler of his own kingdom, though he knows it not. So man is the ruler of his own kingdom, though he knows it not.
Internal kingdom. Because your spiritual kingdom is internal, really, isn't it? You could be in heaven when everybody else is in hell.
So what Peterson is saying, and what is in the New Testament, is you aim for absolute purity. So, which is very, very difficult, possibly impossible to obtain. However, a massive part of that, and there's lots of different ways to achieve that, is telling the absolute truth. And if you don't do that, you'll catch hell in other areas. But we don't control the weather, the mountains, and whatever, life and other people. But we can rule our own treasures in heaven, treasures within.
Quick response to Ramiz. He's
Yep.
saying some people don't open up to friends because they're worried about being pitied, or I don't know what else. Maybe people remember their past errors if you open up to them and all that kind of stuff. My quick response would be, when I tell people about my problems, is so that I can improve. I think that's really important. Like, people do struggle to open up if it's for their own benefit. But I usually go, I need to improve. It's generally like that in life, I think. Like, if you want to lose weight, you have to have a higher purpose. Like, if you have a why, you can get through anyhow, a Nietzsche comment, right? So if you have a greater purpose for opening up, it's not just for the sake of yourself. This is my opinion. You could disagree with me, Jay. If you're trying to open up your problems to fix your problems so that you can be better for all of humanity, then it's much easier. And also, sometimes I open up to make other people feel more comfortable with opening up their problems to me as well. So, and then I get the benefit of, having genuine conversations and people give me good advice about how I can solve my problems as well. What do you think about that? Like people do feel difficulty in opening up and talking about their problems. A major problem in the West, and especially England, when people don't talk about anything personal. How would you say you can overcome this problem?
The problem of actually opening up, or the problem of listening?
That's other people's problem that they don't listen, maybe, but that's a major problem. But how do you overcome this shyness, maybe, or feeling?
Make sure you're with the right person. The wrong person can damage the hell out of you.
Okay, that's
great.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I was once in a church doing this class called Meals for Jesus, and I spoke to a priest. I was going through something at the time, and he looked at me and walked away. And that, I wouldn't say it damaged me, but it told me that like you're useless. It just really, really rubbish.
Yeah.
And also as well, just another quick story is the same church years later, they got a female like priest, vicar, whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
And I stopped her in the street, and
Yeah.
I used to live behind it. And I said to her, I said, can I ask you a quick question? I said, do you believe in God all of the time? And she laughed and she said, of course not. And she said, I think it's very difficult to as humans, like, and I understand that. But she was
you know what? I can get that, because God's
but
not
she
visible
was so
all the time.
honest with me. So she didn't preach the gospel, and she didn't preach the New Testament. She said, hey, of course not. And Jesus didn't, because the night before they crucified him in the garden, he was like, God, where are you? So she displayed the sort of honesty, that JP's on about. There's a footballer for Manchester United years ago, and he didn't want to be picked on the team, and because he says my standards are dropping, and I don't know how, and I don't want the team to suffer. And that's unheard of, that level of honesty. Like, I don't want the team to suffer, so he asked the manager not to pick him. And especially today, like, what player would do that? Like, how and that worked out well for him, because the manager was like, listen, thank you, I've noticed something's maybe not right. Let's take you out for a couple of weeks. We'll have a look. And he came back better.
Cool. Yeah, there is a lot of that. My own experience is that as well, like not football or something, but if somebody wanted me to do something bad in a job, then I'll be like, no, then I get fired. I've lost my job a couple of times. And then I just got a better job and things just work out. But it's that's a really hard thing to tell other people. I think it comes through experience. And I think the God way of explaining it, God's way in Islam at least, is like you do a small sacrifice and see how it comes back to you. I think that's the best way. Like, what's your opinion, right? That what we're telling people is tell the truth and it will work out in the long term. But people know the reason why they don't tell the truth immediately, because in the short term there are problems. And I'm saying that the spiritual way, and this is what we're taught in Islam, is like we're told in Islam, you take one step towards God, God will take 10 steps towards you. If you walk towards God, God would run towards you. So the idea is that God's not saying don't completely trust me, just make an effort and you will see, and then you'll gain confidence and you will take bigger efforts in the truth, and etc., etc. And I think you said yes, but how do you feel about it generally?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, we're saying the same thing. Really, the whole thing is about, we both agree that by being totally genuine and real in all areas is better than not.
No, what I'm saying is really hard to take that first step to believe that in the long term the truth will work out, because in the short term there will be a bit of suffering.
It's hell. It's horrendous. It really is uncomfortable. It gets easier.
But did you find that after some experience you go, you know what, it does tend to pay off in the long term somehow?
No, it does. It does. I've look, and I don't do it all the time. I would say every day I'll practice some form of lie or dishonesty, and I've never portrayed myself as holier than thou.
All right, let's try to get through this video. There's so much deep stuff, but let's keep going a little bit more.
Things they should take responsibility for, or they can craft their words to gain an advantage that they really don't deserve. That's what you do when you manipulate. And the problem with that, you might say, well, why not do that if I can get what I want? And the answer to that is, you aren't necessarily the best judge of what you need. And it's easy to be deluded in what you want. And that's the sort of delusions that people chase if they chase power.
Wow. So he's saying you might try to grab something that you don't really deserve by crafting your words and stuff that you shouldn't really have. And I get that, but it's really hard to, and you don't actually know what you need. And that only really makes sense in my belief, if you believe in God, who's more wise. Who knows, he's got a plan for you, and you're trying to subvert his plan by like trying to get this thing instead. And you basically, so for me, the reason why I try to avoid lying is because like that will be idolatry essentially, because I'm like trying to get something instead of following God's path, which is just tell the truth, go with it. God's got a plan. And we say in Islam, they make a plan, but God's the best. I can't remember, but God plans better, and God is the great best of planners, something like that. I can't remember. Basically, we make plans and stuff, but God's the real planner. Go with God's plan, and you win, because God's the real best of planners. He knows everything. But it's a hard one to swallow otherwise, unless you've got some sort of religious belief that there's an all-knowing, being that knows better than you do. A bit like Jordan Peterson is saying, I guess, but he's not mentioning God.
Well, I'm just reading a little bit what Ramiz Jamoon in the chat. Like, you have to be sensible and intelligent as well. Like, it's not about going to the first person you find on the street and giving them your life story. And I mean, you could start small stages. I mean, an example could be within. Say, for example, you've got a pillow on your bed or a blanket that you don't like, and you've been putting up with it for 3 months, or it doesn't keep you warm in winter. It's just, the truth is, look, this blanket's rubbish, bin it, and go and buy a new one. And that is like living in reality as an action. which
and Jordan Peterson's a big fan of making but the bar low enough for your action. So some people might be like, tell the truth, like all the time suddenly. No. I don't even recommend that. Just do it slowly. Like Islam is all about balance, and balance is different for
balance. That's a good point.
Like you become more capable of telling the truth at different when you've trained more, when you've told more truth. So don't immediately do it all. Just do a little bit, and then it will start working out, and you'll be going in the right direction. So that's my really top tip. I'm gonna be greedy and move. Go on. You want to say something? And then I'll go on.
Because you know when you try to sell or convince me about Islam, it actually repulses me about Islam. When you talk about it without like your own experience, without trying to sell it, it's attractive. And you mentioned balance.
Bear that in mind. Yeah, I'll bear that in mind. But like, I do think it's the best thing since sliced bread, sort of thing. So I'm going to tell people about it.
No, but But if you're streaming with me, I mean, it's every stream. You at some point you do it with Stephen. You go into it like a salesman, and like I'm saying, I'm my truth. So I'm demonstrating now what JP's seeing.
Your truth is that if I mention it over,
it's like a dodgy car salesman. Yeah. And I'll make my decision without you trying to make it for me.
Okay, cool. I sometimes feel like I'll bear that in mind. Let's play this next bit.
If you decide instead that you're going to just say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. And you might think, well, I don't want to let go of the consequences because I want to control what's going on. But what you miss then is adventure, because if you don't control what's going on, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And maybe
this is a really weird thing about adventure. Like if you know that, okay, this is my reaction, then I want to hear yours. So adventure is actually not, people think, so adventure is, you can't have adventure if you know everything that's going to happen. Now, you can't know that everything is going to happen anyway, but what people do is they try to control a lot of things. But what happens when you control a lot of things is you make your world really tiny. I saw this fantastic TED talk, which is all through action, and he was just describing how, like, every time you try to control, you pull up a massive wall and you make your world darker and narrower. It's beautifully illustrated through dance and stuff like that. So those are my thoughts. That by trying to control, you lose the adventure. It does sound crazy and insane and suicidal to not have that control, but I would say my life is like, somebody messaged me, a friend of mine messaged me after a couple of months, like, oh, how are things? And I said, oh, I'm in Ghana, got my second wife. And he said, oh, I didn't imagine you would do that. It's like, I wasn't sure what was going to happen either, right? But it's like, I just went with things, just was honest with myself about what I needed, just keep going. And I just have endless adventures. So it rings really true. And I think most people have very dull lives. I say most people, when I talk to them, like, what's happening? Nothing much. Because they're not being honest with themselves about what they need to change. Because I do have deep conversations with people, and they keep repeating the same problems again and again, and they're not fixing the same problems. And then their life's in a rut. And they could be just doing cool, crazy things. And I don't end up dying somehow. So it works out somehow. But anyway, those are my thoughts. That, go on.
Well, it's easier to control something if you keep it tight to your chest. So, the adventure that Jordan's speaking about is by being really honest. And then you don't know what's going to happen. And it's more of possibly a bumpy ride, but better. Can I just answer something in the chat that Ramiz has asked? he asked about boundaries.
Yeah.
Now,
I clicked on it. Yeah.
I think boundaries it's a modern therapist's term that it's like a fake fence of security. Put up your boundaries with people, which is basically controlling them, saying you cannot do that, you cannot say that word to me, you cannot do this, you cannot, and as opposed to you dealing with stuff. So Ramiz is saying, are you locking other people out? Yeah, I suppose so, but are you locking yourself in? It's both.
Yeah.
Why not like not have a fence or a boundary and just say to them, like, why do you think that, or why be honest with it. And that overpowers this, like, I think it's an idiotic idea that you can, like, so say for example, if a man comes and robs my house, like he stepped over the boundary, I get that, but he's also being criminal and wrong. You can put boundaries in place. You can put boundaries in place in your head, but the other people won't necessarily respond to them. But it more fun to the bold.
Yeah. Or what was that? And he's saying something similar, isn't he? More fun for the. Oh, he's the one who said it. Sorry. Yeah. So I thought you were saying something.
So if you manipulate and keep something straight to your chest, like controlling the outcome and all of that, you kind of know the game. But if you just do what you need to do, be honest, and the outcome might not be what you want. It might be what you want. It might be something better than what you can comprehend.
Yes, that's the other thing. Yeah,
you don't know, and not knowing is faith. Faith is not knowing, but knowing you'll be well, you'll be okay.
Yeah, and faith, I think, is not blind faith, but at least through experience. You can't measure everything, but some.
Yeah, well, so, it's a great point.
Favors the brave, right?
It's a great point because initially it has to be blind faith. So I've just started doing a different swimming program that might work, it might not, but it's starting to work. It worked today. So I've now got faith in it through evidence. So with people like Ramiz, who, if he's unsure about talking to people about problems, find the closest, most decent, not necessarily nicest person and explain his problem of possibly not being able to, like, reveal a little bit more, maybe, or something just subtle, balance, as you say, and see how it goes,
and I totally agree about every next stage. There's a fear and trepidation, faith, you might call it, whatever it is, of telling the truth or opening it up, whatever. So like Ramiz, I don't know if he's just asking questions or his personal thing, but if he fears stuff, I've had that. Like when I was younger, I didn't know how to open up to people. Then I tried it a little bit, wrote a quick email, and then some people it works with, some people it doesn't. But overall, it works if you just keep trying. But but it is scary. It's always scary, and that's the reason why not everybody does it. But the people who are brave, they win. Let me just quickly.
That's exciting. And actually, there's no doubt about it. And then you have the additional advantage if you're attempting to say what you believe to be true and attempting to act in the manner that you think is most appropriate. That's genuinely you. And you have the force of reality behind you. Obviously, that's what you have if you're trying to say live in the truth, is you have the force of reality behind you. That seems like a good deal. Then you have the reality and the adventure. You can craft.
Wow, we actually got to the end. So, and we talked about having the force of reality behind you as well already in the beginning. Wow. I mean, what do you want to add to that? Any thoughts?
Nothing.
Me too. My God.
I mean, you know what you say? Oh, this is really deep. To me, it's not. To me, I've been looking at this stuff for years. It's simple. It's so, like, straightforward. When I first looked at it and started to learn, it was ridiculous. It took me years. But I thought what Jordan Peter's saying, it's basically the New Testament.
Sure. Cool. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, maybe because you've been thinking about these things as simple or something, but I don't know if you could just say reel that off and expect people to understand it all. But pretty awesome.
If I just sum up what I think Jordan Peterson and relating it to the New Testament is, it's like some people say that nobody understood the human condition better than Jesus, and what he was saying is for our own benefit, and we do have control over our own lives within, and we're not going to achieve that by actions like thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. That's the beginning, but we have to internally not want to rob, kill, steal, etc. And we have to manage our spiritual condition, our mental condition. Part of that is by being brutally honest with ourselves first. We cannot be honest with other people unless we are honest within ourselves. So the human wants an easy way out all the time. The human wants a soft touch, doesn't want to be vulnerable. So what Jesus is saying, that if you tell the truth, it is not easy. You're going to be vulnerable. It's going to be difficult. But the rewards that you receive from being honest are basically well worth it. And that's the best way to live life. And he demonstrated that, like in the last day of his life or the day before, when he could have escaped, he could have got out of it. And he's like, no, this is what my principles are. And so he demonstrated his faith and his practice by doing what he knew to be right and was truthful. And hopefully that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah, my thought about the truth as well in another way, and that Jordan Peterson explained really well, is to do with sacrifice. So when you're telling the truth, you're letting go of a lie, a potential lie. But why are you attached to the lie? Because you're attached to certain things that you think that your survival depends on. Oh, I know, really, I don't know, whatever it is, I can't think of city. So you might depend. Okay, what's the typical one? Like the lie is that, I'm really successful because of my car or something. Do you know what I mean? So then you let go. When you sacrifice these things that are actually weighing you down, you become more free. Like you said, the truth will set you free. So I suppose that's what it is. It's painful when you sacrifice it at the initial level, but then you become more free from depending on those things. So like you become more free. Like you say, the lie that you're driving around in a Ferrari to you're just casually driving around in a Ferrari. That's just stupid. It's a really pointless car in London, for example. You're going to be stuck in traffic. So you let go of that lie. You start telling yourself the truth that you're needy or something. You just need love, which is fine. Everybody needs love. Then you just find love in a more direct way rather than the show-off indirect way. And you save loads of money, save your time, blah, blah, blah. And you actually have more friends because you look more genuine and stuff like that. So those are just my thoughts. You have the last few words and we'll finish up.
That's it. I kind of, everything you just said then, everything that I would recommend listening to what Peterson is saying a lot. Listen to it on a daily basis, and drum it into your subconscious and start. And
I would say also he doesn't follow his own advice always as well.
No, but
and that's why he suffers from depression. Sorry,
he admits that, but it's also.
Oh, does he?
As a human, perfection is very, very difficult to attain. But at least he's possibly going in the right direction.
Yeah, we can hope. Exactly. Sometimes it's easy to judge these people.
Yeah, I do think if a person is willing to try and just to go in a bit of a better direction, that's fantastic. You know, we're not looking for results or an outcome. We're looking for just this gently move towards possibly something better, and let's see how it goes, which is balanced.
Cool. Always a pleasure talking to you, Jay. I really appreciate your time. Great ideas, great honesty. Love that. Nobody's perfect. Claire saying you're not being honest about stuff, but that's fine. But you've probably seen the comment. Just in the comments, just like, are you a proper Christian? Are you this and whatever? I'm sure you've heard the same questions before from Claire.
For years, yeah. She's and coming from the kindness of my heart, it would be really perhaps good if she moved beyond her whatever it is with me. I don't know whether it's romantic or whatever. But for her own benefit,
I'm not getting into this. I would like her to be happy between you two.
No. It's between Claire and Claire. I would like her to be happy, but she may be happier if she finds another man.
I'm not even going to respond to that. All right. So thank you very much, everybody. I wasn't having a go at Claire. I'm just saying, yeah. Thank you, Ramiz. Thank you, Claire, Office of Secular. Wesley, I didn't really know how to respond to you, but thanks for being here anyway. So thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoyed it. Good topic. Bye-bye.
Bye.